If you're a regular watcher of my YouTube channel, then it won't surprise you to learn that I spend a lot of time editing videos. I have over 2,000 videos on my YouTube channel. I put out 3 to 5 videos a week for the last, must be 2 or 3 years. The tool that I like to use to edit videos, and the choice of many professionals, is Adobe Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro is a great video editor, but it is not necessarily the best choice for most people. And one of the reasons is the cost. So Premiere Pro license costs you $21 a month or $252 a year. That is way beyond what especially just a regular hobbyist would like to pay. So people are always asking me, what are some free or low cost video editing options that I can use to edit my FPV videos, my vlogs, whatever, and put them up on YouTube? And I have a list of options, but the one we're going to look at today is Wondershare Filmora. We're going to look at the lower end Filmora 9 video editor. We're going to edit actually one of my videos in it, and then we'll take a look at Filmora Pro and see what kind of additional functionality you get with Filmora Pro. In case you're wondering why I picked Filmora 9 out of my list of the ones I recommend, it's because I got an email in my inbox from Filmora saying, would you like to do a sponsored video for us? And most of the time, I don't put sponsored videos on my channel because as a product reviewer, I want you guys to know that you're getting sort of my honest opinion, that nobody's paying me to say good things about their product. But number one, Filmora is a video editor. It's not an FPV product. I don't really review video editors, so there's no conflict of interest there. And number two, like I said, I have recommended Filmora in the past as an option, and I actually, my spouse she's not a YouTuber per se, but she's actually used it and I've seen her have good results with it. So when Filmora said, you want to do a sponsored video, I was like, okay, this could work. But FYI, this is a sponsored video. I am getting paid to make this video. So here in Filmora 9, the first thing I need to do to edit this video is import my media. So I'm going to click plus to import. I'm going to navigate, oh, here we go, navigate to that folder. And here are going to be the first set of files that I'll import. I'm just going to rename this folder DJI Air Unit. And then I'm going to add another folder here. And I'm going to name it Lumix. That's just the name of my camera. And we'll import these guys. Now for this kind of video, what I like to do is just leave one camera rolling almost throughout the whole video so that I have one master track of everything that happened. If I have a lavalier mic on, it's really easy to leave that recording because you can record hours of audio with relatively small files. And I'll just typically leave a lavalier mic running the whole session without ever turning it off. For a camera like a Lumix where you're recording at 1080 or even higher resolution, that adds up. And I'll often, for example, if I have to go pick up my quadcopter, I'll stop the recording and I'll start it again. But I'm going to use these Lumix tracks as my sort of master track for the whole session. And then I'll go in and I'll trim that down via the editing process. So I'm going to click here and shift click here to select the whole thing. I could also just Control A to select all. And then I'm going to right click and insert them into the track. Now I'm getting a warning here that the media doesn't match the current project settings. So we are going to match to media. Currently the project is set to 25 frames per second. We're going to set it to 60 frames per second, which is what this camera was shooting in. I'm going to rearrange my workspace a little bit to give me a little more room here. Let's just drag that and we will right here adjust track height big. Since I don't have a lot of tracks on this timeline, I'm going to make each track as big as possible so I can see the previews better. Filmora supports up to, I think it's 100 tracks, so you'll probably never use that many, most people. Now you might think that the next thing to do is to start editing this down, but that's not how we're going to do it. Because my flights need to be synced up with this. Both of these cameras were running at the same time. And syncing the tracks is always easiest to do before you start editing them down. Start with your full raw data and then sync up the tracks and then do the edit. So the next thing we're going to do is go to these Air Unit flights and we're just going to look and see if any of these videos are super short or maybe don't contain a flight, and we'll get rid of them first of all. So this one is 3 minutes, 27 seconds. That probably is an actual flight. 48 seconds. That may not be a flight. Let's preview it. No, we flew. Did we crash? Yeah, we crashed. Okay. This one is 2:35, 26 seconds. Oh, well, there's cute dogs in this one, so we won't throw this out. Okay, so let's scrub through this track and find where I was flying. I'm going to just press the Control minus to zoom out a little bit. Okay, so here I'm clearly flying because I'm going to take this first track and drag it in as an additional video track. And again, I will adjust track height to big. And what we got to do now is we got to sync these up. So here's the workflow that seems to work the best for me. I'm going to scrub through the timeline until I see myself with goggles down. Here I am getting the music ready and goggles down, and I'm going to find the point where I arm. As I get close to the right point, I'm just going to click and drag to the right to zoom in and look for the point where I arm. Okay, there, I just heard myself arm. I'm going to drag the flight clip in, and then I'm going to zoom in even further and try and look for the audio. Here's where the audio picks up as the quadcopter motors speed up. I'm just going to try to get those looking synced up. And so that didn't sound quite in sync. There we go. Sounds pretty much in sync. And having done that for the whole session, here's what my timeline looks like. I've got my head camera here with my commentary, and I've got my flights here all synced up. The next thing I need to do is I need to fix the color correction for my Lumix head cam. So if you look at this footage, you can see that it is really washed out, and that's on purpose. This footage was recorded in what's called a log or flat color profile. And one of the advantages of recording in a log or flat color profile is that you can apply what's called a LUT, a lookup table, which basically just applies a look to the footage. Let me show you some of the built-in LUTs that come with Filmora. You get an idea of what I'm talking about. There's 007 series LUT. Let's see, black and white film. Oh, it's just black and white. Batman. Ooh, got a blue look like Batman. Cool film, dark film. Game of Thrones. Let's see what else they got. Gravity, Harry Potter, House of Cards. Well, I don't love any of these, so I'm going to do my own. So we will not use a 3D LUT. So I'm going to expand the color and the light sections here. And the first thing I want to do is I'm going to adjust my histogram, which shows me the distribution of light and dark values in the frame. I'm going to adjust the histogram so that it basically fills up the entire available space. In other words, I want to have at least some bright and at least some dark images or colors in the image. Right now we have the brightest part of the image is not as bright as it could be. So the image has just not got as much contrast as it possibly could. I'm going to do that by adjusting the whites, and that's going to move the bright part of the histogram up some. And I'm going to adjust the blacks, which is going to move the dark part of the histogram down some. And if we look at the difference there, we can see we've added quite a lot of contrast to the image. The next thing I can do is I can adjust the exposure of the image as a whole, which is going to sort of, well, it's hard to sum up how it changes the histogram. You can see that as I pull the exposure down, it is making the whole image darker. It's affecting those highlights too. Let's get this looking about right. And I'm also going to raise the saturation. A log image is naturally very desaturated. I'm going to raise the saturation as well to get some of the colors back in. I don't want to saturate to the point where the skin tones look unnatural. Not bad. Let's pick a different clip here. Now I'm seeing a lot of grain here in the dark areas. So I'm going to try to pull those shadows down a little bit and darken those so that that grain is less apparent. I'll just pull it all the way down. It's pretty low. Pull the brightness down. But I don't want to make my face seem dark. Not bad. It's looking okay. That's looking pretty normal. There is also just a little bit of a green tint I can see in the color on my face. And depending on how your monitor is calibrated, you may or may not see that. And I think that is the reflection of the hedge or maybe these chairs. There's always just a little bit of green tint when I stand here. Maybe just reflection off all the tree leaves. But I'm going to try and fix that by adjusting the tint a little bit towards magenta. And that's going to give this area out here just a little bit of a magenta hue, but it's going to make my skin tones look a little more natural. Let's turn that on and off. I think that's better. Yeah, that's just, when human skin looks green, it looks a little sickly, and that people tend not to like that. Now, if I go a little too far, that's looking pretty magenta. That's a little too far, but I think right about there. Now, I don't want to have to go through all of this for every single one of these clips. So what I'm going to do is save as a preset, and I'm going to name it. Here's my preset 1. That's fine. I'm going to name that preset and OK. Now I've color corrected this clip. Now I'm going to go and apply this to each of the other clips. Here's the next thing that I need to fix. My DJI footage is recorded in 4:3, but my timeline is 16:9. And of course, we're going to be exporting in 1080p 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio. So we don't want to see this just overhanging the edges. We got to find some way to fix that. We'll do that by right-click and show properties for this clip. And on the video tab, we have options to scale as well as do some other things to the clip. So let's try just scaling it up. And of course, if we do that, we're going to lose the top and bottom as well. Now, if I want to do that automatically, I can right-click and choose Crop to Fit. And again, that'll do the same thing. It'll just zoom in and crop off the tops and bottoms. So what I'd really like to do is stretch this. Oh! Well, I was about to tell you that you can't do it, but apparently it's so freaking simple that I couldn't even think of. Okay, Joshua, way to make things harder than it should be. So I guess I just got to drag these, and it doesn't seem to snap. I really wish that I could just like click a button and have it drag, but that will do, I guess. You gotta be real careful not to leave like a little extra little bit here. So this is the first time where I really feel like I've started to run up against the limitations of the software. One of the ways to approach this is just to resize this guy. I guess that's going to work okay. Another way to approach it is to blur the background, or to put like a black background. So for example, you could just duplicate the track, stretch the underlying one, and blur it so you have a blur there. That doesn't seem to be very easy to do, just to duplicate the whole track, at least not as far as I can tell. So I'm just going to go through and I'm just going to manually stretch each of them. The last thing I want to do is I want to adjust the audio. I didn't put a lot of work into getting a good audio recording. I just had an on-camera shotgun mic. And so you can see from the waveform here that the volume is quite low. I'm just going to adjust the volume up until we get it a little closer to peaking. Let's go, baby. Let's get some music too. Let's get some music. I'm just going to play back here where I'm talking. And let's turn the visibility on this track off so we don't hear this track. I just want to see this one. So now let's just drag the volume of this up until we start to see the waveform peaking a little bit. We don't want to do this where the waveform is clipping off the top because that will sound like crap. That's a good looking car. Kind of want to, yeah, so it looks like 5 dB of additional volume here. And we're going to want to get all of these tracks about the same because they were all recorded under about the same conditions. So we want the volume to be about the same between them. It would be great to be able to mass apply these settings to all the clips, or to apply the settings to the timeline or to the track as a whole. We'll have to see if that's one of those features that's available in the Filmora Pro that isn't available in regular Filmora 9. But for now, I'll just do them one at a time. Now I'm going to put my headphones on and I'm just going to check that audio. We are almost ready to actually start editing. But before you start actually, I think before you start actually trimming down and doing the actual work of cutting, you want to get a solid, you want to get your color correction, you want to get your whole timeline built. And then the very last step is the actual, what most people would think of as editing. Like a really low pitch prop. Let's look at audio. It really wants a lot. I was wondering if my throttle was right. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Like it feels like it wants a higher kV. All right. Let's save this. And let's start actually editing. It's Christmas. Okay, so here's obviously where we're going to come in. Right about there, I guess. And what we'll do is we will just click the scissors to split at this point. We'll click on this and we will delete. We'll ripple delete. And here's going to be the beginning of the video. So what I want to do is I want to apply a little bit of a fade in at the very beginning of the video. I just find that helps ease into the video a little better. I'm going to click on the audio track. I'm going to right click show properties. And right here, I can add just about I don't want a whole second of fade in. I just want like the tiniest, like 0.1 seconds of fade in. It's Christmas. And that's going to just ease us in just a little bit. 0.2 maybe. It's Christmas. Yeah. We're going to fly. Okay. We're going to fly. So we'll let that door slam be our outro here. Let's do it. Do I say anything else? Y'all ready to fly? Okay, dogs are always a big hit. 65 degrees. Let's do some flying. Okay, cut here. Y'all ready? Cut here. Cut here and delete and delete. Let's see how that transition works. Y'all ready to fly? Y'all ready to fly? So at this point, we're just going through clipping out the dead spots that we don't want. Let's just find the transition point, cut, delete. Something done like that. So here's what happened here. I cut to the very beginning of the flight, but listen to the audio. Or something done like that. So that you can sync up your... See, I'm in the middle of a sentence there. So I need to make this clip a little bit, I need to get the beginning of this clip back into to the timeline. And I can do that by clicking on the clip to select it. And then if I highlight the transition point, you'll see I get this tool and I can adjust the start time, and it just does another ripple edit where it sort of squeezes and expands the timeline to make room for the new content. Something like that. So always, when you're trying to play to music, always come in on the same beat. So I just happen to have done it pretty much just at the right time, but let's see if there's any more stuff. Yeah, no, there's nothing. Like that. Just a little bit of fun. Yeah, so we want to come right in, right? We can just drag to there if we want to. Perfect. Thing done like that. So always, when you're trying to play... I'm going to go ahead and put this music in here. So let's make an audio folder, or a music folder, or whatever. I've got my MP3 file here. And for this, I'm going to have it play along with this track, or with this flight. So I'm going to drag that in to an audio track here. And I'm going to need to get it synced up. So let's see if we can find the another one. Once you get used to the... Okay, so I think it's right there. You can get some... You don't have... I think it's right there is where I'm taking it. Right there. So what let's do is let's just trim this track right to the beginning there. And let's find my takeoff point where I arm the quad. You can sync up. So I think that's synced up right. I'm not 100% sure which beat I was coming in on. The other thing I want to do, since I'm talking over this part, let's do some keyframes for the audio. And here's how we're going to do that. Okay, so let's have that be where the audio is at full volume. So in order to add a keyframe, I'm going to click on the track and I'm going to edit. And right here in the audio tab, which is the only tab we've got because this is an audio track, I'm going to add a volume keyframe. And then I'm going to go back here. I'm going to add another volume keyframe here. And now you can see, oh, hang on, add keyframe. We got these two dots. Now I can take this dot and I can drag the audio volume to be lower for the earlier part of the track. So check this out. It was kind of a disappointing amount of sag, but that could just be my battery being not in the best shape or something dumb like that. So now the music is... Oh, right, my roof. Okay, let's try that. I felt like there was kind of a disappointing amount of sag, but that could just be my battery being not in the best shape or something dumb like that. So now the music comes in. When you're trying to play the music, always come in on the same beat. Always take off on the same beat. So I feel like I could get a little louder here, so we'll add another keyframe here. And we'll drag this keyframe up. We'll slowly increase the volume through that part. Oh, right, my roof. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. But people are always asking what equipment I'm flying. So sometimes I like to put in what's called a lower third, which is just some text down here at the bottom part of the screen to let people know what equipment I'm flying. If we go in the titles view, we can see a whole bunch of pre-made titles that come with Filmora, including several lower thirds. And let's just let's find one that I like the look of. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, that's fine. So we'll just go ahead and hit the plus here, and it'll insert it right where the playhead was, which is right at the beginning of this clip. And then we can edit that just by clicking on the text. It's a little bigger than I want it to be. Let's make that smaller. Let's just drag that over here. So how's that going to look? Let's get some music. Yeah, nice. Nice. That'll do. And for this segment here, where I've got some music, I could use the same thing to put maybe the title of the artist or something like that. At this point, the video is not completely edited, but I think you see the basic mechanics of working through the timeline, cutting out the parts you want to get rid of, ripple edit to close it up, and everything that I'm going to do from here on out is basically stuff you've already seen. So I'm not going to make you sit there while I finish editing the video. The last thing to do, though, is to export it. And in order to do that, we're going to click Export, Create Video. Now, we could upload directly to YouTube, but I always like to check that the video has exported the way I want it to before I go ahead and upload it to YouTube manually. So I'm going to hit Export, Create Video. And here we get to the part where they try to get you to give them money because the free plan does have watermark on the video. And of course, it's a giant watermark. You're probably not going to want that. But we could go ahead and log in. So let's try that again. Export, Create Video. Let's export as MP4. Let's do 3480 by 2160 resolution. That's 2.7K. I like to export FPV videos to 2.7K resolution because I find that when you upload them to YouTube, I think they look better. Frame rate, we can just do 30 FPS. Bit rate, we need a way higher bit rate. Let's do 20 megabits per second. Bit rate, again, for fast motion like flight, you really want a high bit rate. And size about 4.5 gig. That seems about right. And away we go. And I'll see you in about 40 minutes when it's done rendering. Well, there you go. That is how me, a literal professional YouTuber, might use Filmora 9 to edit a video for my channel. And having gone through this, I gotta say, there are a few convenience features that I usually use in Premiere Pro, specifically things like syncing up the music and syncing up the audio of the clips. There are a few little features that Premiere has that make that a little bit easier. But I gotta say, at least for a simple edit like this, everything I really wanted to be able to do, it pretty much could do. And I think the result is, well, the result will be up on my YouTube channel and you can see what you think. If this has convinced you that you'd like to give Filmora 9 a try, there's a link in the video description and you can go ahead and download that and check it out. Earlier in the video, I said, and then we'll see Filmora Pro and we'll see how it compares. And I got to tell you, at this point, I think this video is probably going to be too long. So I'm going to make a whole separate video where I'll do another edit using Filmora Pro and comparing and contrasting. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks to Filmora for sponsoring this video. And I'm out of here. Happy flying, everybody.